So the idea this afternoon, is getting to know George. I've learned a lot about Oradian, but also about their business and how they're approaching things, and we share a similar mission as well. So with that, I invited George to kind of let's discuss this. Let's kind of get this in the open and have the benefits of others also learning what we went through. Oradian's big in sharing its experience, but also enhancing the community. And we believe that part of enhancing the community is to get into to work together and know each other, even if in many times it feels like we're competitors. A little bit about Salmon to kick off. For those who don't know, Salmon started in June 2022, so that's last year, just been over a year. Raised over $36 million dollars in financing, so they've got very good confidence from their investors. Salmon is a leader innovator, particularly in technology in consumer lending. And when I reflect on Salmon, I see there's a very strong brand, strong tech team. But funny enough, when I speak to George about it, he's always obsessed about the customer experience. And he's always explaining is what are they doing for the customer. And so with that, maybe if we can kick off, George, in your own words, tell us about Salmon and what mission you set out to do with Salmon.
Yeah, hi everybody. So maybe just first a bit of background, so where I come from, and over the last 20 years I've been doing retail, consumer finance and stuff in Russia, and a little bit of telecoms. I've been part of several startup situations, including most notably Tinkoff. That's the one of the biggest digital bank in Russia. So, and we were looking to do something in the Philippines as Tinkoff, but that's all unraveled after the war started. So I quit, and with a small team, we decided to launch, our own shop here in the Philippines, because the market here is great. I think that's the best country to do something in financial services. So, and we launched as a financing company, and we do financing in stores, but we have a very long roadmap of products, and that's where Oradian comes really helpful.
Thank you. So, George, as you said, you've come across with a team of people here. It wasn't initially how you started, but what's the driving factor? What makes you so passionate about the customers, about the industry? What is that mission that's driving Salmon?
Well, again, I think the historical part is important. So in Russia, we managed not only to build a great financial services business, but also help the industry transform. So when I started this journey some 20 years ago, Russia was underbanked. Well, some reason it was banked because everybody had an account with the biggest Russian state-owned bank, but it was underbanked because everything was done in cash. So nobody used their banking accounts, their banks, the way they should. It was partly the fault of the banks, partly the state of industry. So what we did, we created the first digital bank in Russia, and we helped the whole industry transform. So all state-owned banks, private banks, now also very much digital. So, and when we started credit cards in 2007, we had 95% of transaction volume was cash withdrawal from credit cards. Our own employees would queue 2 times a month at an ATM to withdraw cash. So fast forward 10 years, it's 95% credit card transactions are purchases. Well, nobody queues at ATMs because you can do everything from your mobile app. So this is a tremendous journey. Finance is central to people's lives. You really cannot exist in modern society without robust financial services. So our mission is to help similar transition here in the Philippines. Obviously, it started long ago. I mean, it's going fast forward, but I think we have some things to add to this exciting journey of the financial services industry, and to bring more people on board, to bring more people, embrace the financial services and move from cash under the mattress and that kind of stuff to really modern financial services where people can do much more with their lives, with their money, with the credit, access to credit, etc., etc., etc. So I think it's a great journey for any country, and I'm proud to be part of it here.
And how do you see the landscape, with that experience that you had? How do you see the landscape and the opportunity here in the Philippines? I'm sure you draw a lot of parallels, but is there anything unique here that you see, or opportunities that are not tapped into?
Well, I mean, it's still what I feel. It's still very much unbanked, and people don't use their banks or their financial service institutions to the full extent. So this is changing, especially over the several last years, and some of the companies present here are a big part of this effort to change the story. But still, I mean, I personally use my banks. I have like 3 to 500 transactions per month. It's anything from coffee purchase to Swift transfer to investment to whatever. A typical, and this is anecdotal evidence that there's not much statistics, but a typical user of a bank here in the Philippines does maybe 5-10 transactions per month, maybe lower. And this is a huge potential to growth, right? So yeah, this is I think this is a great place to be, and it's in early stages of the journey.
I mean, as you say that, I remember when we came to the Philippines first time in 2016, and we wanted to cash in a check. You couldn't transfer from one bank to the other. You literally had to write the check, get it to a driver, go stand in queue, before the deadline, before the traffic. So a lot of these banking services are evolving here, but more so specifically for the end consumers that need is big, particularly because it's underbanked. So you set up last year. How's that journey been so far in the Philippines for you? What are some of the key learnings? You came here, set up shop.
Well, the journey is great, and we started with lending, and I think lending is difficult in any country, and we were told horror stories about how hard it is to lend in the Philippines, and but I mean the key learning is actually it is possible. So people who lend here do make money. Well, just in a business statistics, so 60% of total unsecured consumer lending by banks is credit cards. So how many credit card holders are there in the Philippines? Just 6 million people, and some 11 or 12 million credit cards, which means every credit card holder has 2 cards. But if you don't have a credit card, you actually can't really get one. So the second learning is that most of our customers, they're not in credit bureaus, they don't have credit cards, they still need financing. So they go to the store, they buy their motorcycle helmets or whatever. And it's what I call the blue collar of the service economy. So it's people who earn money by hours of their service type work. It's drivers, it's plumbers, it's bartenders, it's dance studio instructors, etc. People who provide services, earn their whatever hourly wages. These are the people that we're bringing in the financial services industry. And actually speaking about landscape, that will be the transition. So as I said, there are 6 million credit card holders who have got 2 cards each. That's a creme de la creme, of financial services customers. But what about the next 20 million people? What about the 100 million people? How do we bring them from street lenders, 5, 6 schemes, into the organized financial services. I think there are two major things you need to do. Is one, design great products that are easy to understand, and use modern technology to assess credit risk, to get access to these customers wherever they are. And that's why technology is a very important part of the journey. I mean, doing it the old way is too expensive, and that's why there's still so few customers who are truly, versed well in financial services. We need to bring more people into organized, financial services through technology.
So you touched on technology there, and you mentioned the old way versus the new way. Is it something proprietary? Is it a magic sauce? Is there something specific about new technology? Or what is driving the old versus the new?
Well, the old technology is hugely manual. Yeah, you go to a customer, you meet them, you sort of interrogate them, then issue them a loan. That's very manual, very expensive, and it's not really scalable. There are very successful businesses doing this, but again, there are successful businesses, and then there is the level of penetration of consumer credit in the GDP. I think it's one of the lowest in it's 20-something%. It's very low compared to even peers in Southeastern Asia, such as Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, etc. So, and the new way is, doing, for example, credit assessment through technology, using all the available data sources. Filipinos are online. They spend record number of hours per day on the internet. So there is a lot of digital trail. You can utilize this to assess credit risk in lieu of credit bureaus. That's just one example of how you can use technology to get to these people and help them become, financial services customers.
So it's effectively using technology to enhance the principles that are already there, but just to become more efficient and lower the operational cost. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're a little bit of, if I can turn this a little bit of and segue in, Oradian. You're a tech company. You've done this before. You know how to do this. What made you go source out a technology, a lending platform, a technology partner, and how did you go about choosing Oradian?
Well, I mean, we started very fast on some ready-made platform. It's I would say it was this off-the-shelf, cloud-based, but it's very simplistic. So we had the vendors upgraded to suit our needs, launched very fast, but going forward, this platform is lacking. So we're looking, and given our roadmap of products, different kinds, we thought that we need a modern foundation, core banking system. Despite we're not a bank yet, but running good products, you need a great system. And so we shopped around. Obviously, there are more traditional core banking system providers, cloud-based. But what I found is that like 90% of their personnel is sales. Well, at least that was the impression. And which means a lot of overhead, and the technologies. I mean, why do you need so many salespeople in an organization? Probably the product doesn't sell itself, right?
Nice observation.
So, yeah, so I mean, we actually run into Oradian by chance, and I was really surprised that the guys are very big here in the Philippines and also in Nigeria, which is another emerging market and star of Africa, and probably shares many similarities, though probably very different. Uh, so, I mean, which means Oradian knows how to work in these markets, and actually they've got clients here, which means they know how to work with the typical issues, with the typical problems. They know how to report to the central bank. They approved, and that is one very important consideration. Second, we looked at the technology, and our CTO was so impressed that he fell in love. And our CTO is a very geeky techie guy, so this speaks volumes. Third was actually, no, apart from how the system is built, that it actually allows you to basically there is an old way to running core banking part of your banking organization. So typically there is a big system vendor, then there are outsourcers or system integrators. They do some kind of small adjustments. Then if you need something different, you talk to the vendor, and in half a year at best, for enormous cost, you get what you want, and then your support cost also rises, and it's like very expensive, very slow, and it's not really flexible. So what people tend to do, at least in Russia, they tend to actually, okay, we'll do a lot of stuff ourselves. So they build traditional departments, people who write in PL/SQL. This is the old language to access databases. And there are not many people like that anymore because nobody wants to program PL. So this is the guys in their 50s trying to build your modern... I'm actually also in my 50s, so... But I mean, most of your IT organizations is 20s and 30s, and then there is a very different breed of people writing all these outdated languages for an outdated architecture. So it's very hard. On the other hand, you've got cloud-based systems. You don't need to do anything. I mean, they're ready. But you cannot really change. It's one size fits all. And it's not our style. We don't want to be one size fits all. We want to develop our own product. So what Oradian provided us is both the beauty of being a cloud-hosted, ready-made solution, but with our ability to actually develop it further, but not with the traditional way of all this PL/SQL, scripts, but using modern software development techniques, using modern, young software developers, and that is a very different way to run your IT organization. So in a typical bank, there is an IT that does modern stuff, such as mobile banking, and then there's IT that does this old school core banking support stuff, and they really don't talk because they're different generation, different, programming languages, different cultures. With Oradian, you can have just one IT organization that uses the same principles, both for mobile app development, API, middleware development, and core banking development. This is fantastic. I mean, this makes you so much more future-proof in terms of how you build your IT organization. You're not anymore dependent on this, COBOL, whatever, developers from the last century. And last but not least, when we met, I think there was chemistry, and it's important when you launch new products to have chemistry with your partner, because chemistry means trust, and you cannot really write everything in the contract. Shit will happen, there will be problems, you need to be confident in your ability to solve these problems intelligently to mutual benefit, and I think that's what we found in Oradian.
Thank you very much. It's very complimentary of you. I'd love to maybe dig into some of the things you said. You got very specific about the technology and the thinking about it, the modern approach. As a CEO, why are those things important to you? I can understand for a CTO, but if I can reflect, why is that important to you? How do you see those benefits transcending beyond the technical department?
Well, I mean, there is no such thing as a technical department anymore. There are teams of people that work together. So some people, write Scala to program something in the middleware, or Kotlin or whatever. Some other people write Python, but they're actual analysts. Some people, you know, design digital products, and they also use a lot of software to do this. So it's in a cross-functional teams. And for me, what is important, and these teams can actually work together. And from my previous experience, when I have this old school core technology in the core banking system, it's very hard to make this, teams work together because the cultures are so different. Even the workflows. So in this old school core banking solutions, it's typically waterfall project management, which doesn't really mix well with agile. So in the core banking, they would have 2 releases per year. In the mobile app, you're doing this, weekly or monthly. It's very hard to mix. So it's very hard to actually build your product roadmap. It's very hard to deliver. It's even harder to deliver on this roadmap. So having a modern piece of technology which helps you create the right working environment, the right teams, to create the right roadmap and not be constrained, but be empowered. I mean, why do we buy technology as a business? To be empowered to do the next step, right? Not to be constrained. So that's why technology is important to me as a CEO. I want to empower my business with each new technology addition, not to add more constraints or just cost or something.
One more question, looking backwards, and then I'll ask you to look at some questions moving forward. For the audience, we have a mixture of companies here. You have a very mature tech team, or a very, what I refer to as deep tech. They can get really, your CTO.
Not yet mature, but
or rather,
and not that deep, but
for organizations, for example, who have their operations established, but their technical team is not as developed, how do you recommend them embracing technology? What are the steps? Do they go out and hire big, massive teams? What are the things that you've seen from your experience? How to be approaching and thinking to bring this enhancement layer to the business?
yeah, I'll just say a couple. I just tell a couple stories from my past. So one is from Tinkoff, and Tinkoff now is like one of the biggest digital bank, sadly from Russia. We started as a credit card company in 2007. Now they've got like 35 million clients. They're the largest retail brokerage in the country by number of clients. They're second largest bank by number of retail clients. It's an insurance company, a mobile operator, and like lots of stuff. So how this success could be possible? It could only be possible if you transition from a normal bank to a tech company. But did we start as a tech company? No. When we started, it was a proper bank, despite we were just doing credit cards and like Capital One mailing the solicitations. It was direct mail operation. But we had a banking license. But we had only 14 people in our IT department. 14. But we had like, a few major systems bought and installed by third-party providers, by integrators, and serviced by integrators, such as our core banking solution, our CRM, call center management system, and card management system. All that were vendor provided. At that time, it was not a cloud-based solution, but still. So, but then you start solving business problems, and okay, we need technology here. First, you bring third-party providers because you don't have the capability inside. But then you start to develop capability yourself because you just hire right people. And I know precisely the moment when the bank transitioned to a tech company. We bought a portal software to power our website and our internet banking from some Dutch company. It was very modern solution. They came in, they installed it, we launched, and the first day our website just, fell down. So they did something, it relaunched again, and then fell down again. I was like, it was a disaster. It just couldn't work with the load, though the load wasn't that good. But the core technology inside was actually quite modern. So we had to hire people who could understand this technology. And actually, our current CTO is one of those 3 guys. But the reason why these people were hired is because they found it interesting enough. I mean, no great developer in their right mind would join a bank at the time. It was like, being in a bank, that's so, strange. But we've got this Java-based portal software that can run video, whatever. Oh yeah, that's interesting. So first you bring in the technology that is vendor provided if you don't have the capability. Then solving the business problems, you make this technology, this challenge interesting enough for good people to join. And then once they join, they start building the pockets of good people around them. And suddenly, it might take months or years, dependent on your size and many other things. You find yourself perfectly capable of doing very complex tech stuff yourself. So you just need to seed the right people, and seeding the right people is easier when you have a right challenge, a right vision. Challenge can be, it might be technical in nature, such as with our portal software. It might be scalable. It might be, new product or new market. Create the right challenge, the right vision. The right people will join first in small numbers, and then over time, you will be changed from a vendor-dependent traditional bank to software development powerhouse.
So it's more of a journey rather than a.
It is always a journey.
Thank you. Looking forward, what's the future look like for Salmon here in the Philippines? What are your ambitions? What do you want to be achieving over the next period of time?
Well, I think I'm ambitious in the millions of customers, but the good thing about the Philippines and the good thing about the financial services business that we're doing, which is lending, it's asset, it's not asset light, it's a very capital intensive, is that there can be many winners in this game. So it's in what we do, there is no single winner. It's being here, we'll be building our customer base, we'll be providing some competition to some other players, so they will have to improve, they will be building their customer bases. In a few years' time, 90% of adult population will be firmly within the grasp of modern financial services companies. That will be many, and all of them will be successful. Well, maybe not all of them, but most of them.
Can I open up to the floor? Do we have any questions maybe someone would like to ask or request about?
Hi, sir. I'm Rafi Aying from the Daily Tribune. Sir, how many customers now that Salmon is currently serving with your 4 years experience here?
Sorry, we've launched our business end of November last year, so it's less than a year.
Okay.
But frankly, I cannot share, but it's tens of thousands.
And you mentioned earlier that the Philippines is considered as the fastest growing segments in Southeast Asia, and why do you say so, sir?
So what I said is that here in the Philippines, it's one of the lowest credit penetration in Southeastern Asia, and it's bound to grow. But so it's not demand constrained; it's supply constrained. So there's not enough supply, and part of the reason there is not enough supply that there are not enough tech-enabled players like ourselves. But I mean, the market is heating up. More companies come in, so join the race. But as I said, there will be many winners in this race.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Enzo from Manila Bulletin. Um, right at this moment, there is a cybersecurity forum happening at Shangri-La Hotel, the fort. So, with regards to security, what do you think of Oradian's strength when it comes to fintech that would create a more reliable system and encourage more customers to trust the system here in the Philippines? And how will Origin contributes to the financial success of Salmon in growing more businesses? And how will they be able to secure Salmon's existing point of sale and cash loan lending and disruptive products?
Good questions. So security is, for one, it would be ignorant to think that you don't need security. We all need security, and there's different ways to embrace security. For us, it's about following a set of standards. That's the core for us, and doing a whole lot of things around security, double checking on a regular basis, having third-party audits coming in and looking and testing the system. So a major part of that is we follow best practice around security, we follow ISO standards, and we're constantly applying for certifications and making sure that they're updated. There's another part of security which is often the weakest part or the most vulnerable part we often find, and that's within the operational aspect of the business. So the security is not just a case of something that as a technology provider happens, but it's also about making sure there's education throughout the entire process and everyone's aware of that security, and that's being practiced by every individual within the organization, both from our side as well as from the customer side. Your second question on empowering Salmon and others. So our mission was to increase financial inclusion. When we set out the business, I saw a lot of personal frustration. You could see there was technology. You could see that there was an opportunity, but still a lot of people failed to have access to financial services. So what our thesis was, if we created the right tools for businesses such as Salmon, such as others, and we enabled them to focus on their market, understanding the relationship with their clients, we would contribute to financial inclusion. That was how we set out. So my mission is that we make sure that we can give the right tools to our customers, but you know your clients best. So we don't engage with the end clients, the beneficiaries of loans and so forth. What we do is making sure that we can enable you to scale. So it's nice to hear George reflect on that. Is, when he talks about, he's concerned about technology, is not what's the programming language. His concern is how does he make his team more efficient so they can do things at scale. How to manage those costs. What are those financials to make sure that you can operate at scale. And that effectively is key for financial inclusion. Right now, the only reason why most people have got financial services in urban areas is because financial institutions struggle to provide that service outside of that vicinity. And as we better enable technology, we can then take that last mile further and further out until eventually you can have 100% coverage over the entire country, regardless is it urban or rural. And that's what our mission is how do we get those tools in place and empower different customers. Now, for us, another aspect of that is we want to be able to do that in a cost-effective way. We want to constantly look at our innovation. So our part of the value chain is we innovate in the technology and enhance it so that the customers, their part of the value chain is dealing with the clients and scaling that part. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Bernadette Punzalan from Chinese Commercial News. Sir, my question is, who do you consider your target market? And also, are you offering rural banks?
That's for me.
Yeah.
Yes. So, who our target market is any financial institution. That for me is key. I don't. There's no need to discriminate. What I do look for is in terms of the types of customers we service are those who are they share similar values, that share a similar mission, who wants to scale their business, who wants to grow, who wants to reach more. Rural banks are one of those, and we have several rural banks. Actually, as it happens, Kantilan Bank was the first regulated by BSP Bank to actually go into the cloud in Southeast Asia in terms of core banking. So there's a couple of industry firsts we've already achieved with rural banks, but effectively it can be anything or any type of institution, any type of lender who is looking to scale, to perform at scale. I think that's the other thing. It's not just about number of clients, but is actually requiring performance at scale.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Richard Yabona from Edge Davao. So my first question is, in figures, how many customers are Oradian is now engaging? And my second question is, uh, what do you think that the customer should engage in your platform? And my third question is, what are Salmon's major goals and targets over the next 5 years?
So I'll kick off with ours. So we're servicing over 60 financial institutions in 12 countries. Majority of that is in the Philippines. The Philippines is our largest market, and we have a strong presence here. I didn't catch question number two. Sorry.
What do you think why customers should engage in this kind of platform, the Oradian?
Um, I think we can both maybe why is this kind of platform important? I think that for me the most important aspect of why this platform is important is I don't see how else can you scale financial services without reducing the costs and without having to have a one-to-one relationship with a human being. I think that's what's actually holding back financial services. So there's, based on that principle, cloud is a critical solution. A well-priced business model is a critical component of that solution. And so we're segueing in particularly because there is no other way that you can actually reach so many people, but without having to increase your expenses. And the third one about some targets.
Uh, yeah, if you ask us about engagement of customers, I'd say that financial services, they should be like air. You just breathe, you don't notice it. So our goal is to provide this air and don't necessarily be noticed by the customer. There should not be friction. You want this coffee, you want to pay for this coffee, you pay, and that should be really easy. And I mean, that's a very simplistic example. Obviously, you should be able to do much more. I mean, finance your house or invest. There are many financial services products that's currently very hard for customers to understand, to interact with, and to avail of, and to actually improve their lives by using these financial services products. So our ambition is to make everything much easier and be part of this revolution here in the Philippines, and eventually, serve millions of clients in the next 5 years.
Good afternoon. I'm James Sumarang from Tech and Lifestyle Journal. I have two questions right now. Number one, given the necessary factors about or affecting cloud banking, how do you assess the Philippines in terms of preparedness to embrace this kind of system? And number two, what will be your edge over all the other fintech companies that are targeting the banking industry in the Philippines right now? What will be your advantage over them in terms of competition and technology and whatever factor is necessary?
So I think the first aspect about cloud, the Philippines is one of the better countries to be able to accept cloud for a lot of the physical challenges. For example, being the geographical positioning to the Ring of Fire and the Ring of Fire on the Pacific. So it has also become the strategy of government to move into cloud. Many of the departments across the government are promoting cloud services. So outsourcing for that specific to overcome those specific challenges. So is the Philippines ready to embrace this? Absolutely. Education is a major part of it, so making sure that everyone's understanding what they are doing when they transition from on-premise to cloud and what those benefits are. When it comes to looking at fintechs, I think it's one short word, but it actually encompasses a lot, and it means a lot for a lot of people. Kind of a little bit to George's points, and what I see is the problem of lack of financial services. The demand is so big that there is a lot of work to be done, and no one can do it in isolation. So there's a lot more room for collaboration, a lot more room for fintechs. There's different types of fintechs. They're either providing a service within the value chain, and so I don't think it's not fintechs versus banks, or it's not one company versus the other. It's about collaborating to build an ecosystem, to build a community where the problem that needs to be solved is how do we make that frictionless? And we heard a lot of this today. That I think is the most important thing, is how do we collaborate to be able to make that experience for the end clients better and quicker, so it's as simple as breathing air. Maybe you want to touch on that?
Yeah, I think if you ask us, and cloud regarding the end user, so I mean, everybody is already outsourcing most of their lives to cloud, be it Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or whatever. So the population is cloud, 100% cloud ready, I'd say. And when it comes to banking, I mean, we're fundamentally an offline company, so we do offline lending in stores. But after we launched our mobile app for repayments in April, and now more than 90% of our customers do repayments through our mobile app. So yes, they do get loans offline, but because they shop offline. But when it comes to pure financial part, which is repayment, 9% prefer to do it through the app rather than go somewhere. So I think the population is really cloud ready and will only increase in near term. And you say about our advantages, I think the key advantage is actually being here and not being afraid of doing stuff fast, while other people are thinking of whether to how to land in the Philippines, whether it's scary or not. We're just doing things. So, and we've got a very deep team with big experience across many markets, doing great financial products for millions of people. So, and actually, it's important also not to be afraid of regulation. I mean, financial services is a fundamentally regulated business, and regulation needs to be embraced. And I think here in the Philippines, the regulators, are very good and very progressive. So I guess it's a combination of things. There is no one silver bullet.
Thank you. If I I made a few notes here to summarize our conversation and the key takeaways, and as I prepare to read them out, George, I'll ask you one question after this: is what takeaway would you kind of leave with the audience? So if you think about that one, I just reflecting on what George says. I think everyone needs to make it easy for financial services as breathing. I think that's really important. What we're seeing across the board, it's not a demand issue. The demand is absolutely there. It's a supply issue. So it's everyone's responsibility, all of ours, to be part of that community to make that easy. There's definitely going to be lots of winners to build. There's going to be lots of winners who are going to be part of building financial services. It's not a one winner take all. It really is going to be a collaborative thing. Choosing the right partner is about empowering your team. So it's not just about choosing the right technology. It's definitely about choosing the right partner who you work with, so that the business functions better, not specifically a department. So in all, it's about, this is the last point, is when you're starting off a technology, and if you're starting off internally as a technology, make the problems exciting to attract the right talent. So very much about the team you have. It's do you have the right technology, the right talent on board? So as a leader, framing the problem in a way that attracts the right talent. So those are kind of the takeaways I've taken from our conversation. Would you like to share something for the audience before we break?
Yeah, I think that there is one thing that I'd say, and financial services seem to be intimidating. Both for customers here in the Philippines and for financial services providers themselves. But that doesn't have to be so. We here, as well as many other companies, are here to make financial services less intimidating for the customer through great product design, through technology. And if you're a financial services provider, you also need to find right partners that don't make it intimidating for you. And I think Oradian is one of them. So if you find somebody who says, yeah, that's very complex, we're here to solve it, they're trying to intimidate you. And that's not the right approach. It shouldn't, well, it is complex, but it shouldn't be fearsome. Yeah.
Thank you very much, George, for that. Very insightful. Thank you very much to all of you for coming through. I'd like to encourage everyone to grab a drink, and then we're going to have some food to supplement the alcohol. Once again, thank you all for coming. Thank you, George.
Go further. Think bigger with Oradian. To find out more about the future of extensible banking, get in touch with our team today.